Hi, good day everyone. With me again, Lady Trialdi in Introductory Macroeconomics class. We have so far learned about long-run economy, but it is important that we learn the economy in the short run as well. Short-run fluctuations in economic activity or economic business cycle have occurred in all countries throughout history. It includes economic crisis, one of the short-run phenomena. Economic fluctuations are irregular and unpredictable. Yes, the explanation about this fluctuation remains controversial, but we may learn the model that most economists use to explain short-run fluctuation in economic activity, the aggregate demand and supply model. To explain the model, we need to abandon first two of the main assumptions in the classical economic model, namely the money neutrality and classical dichotomy assumption. While most economists believe that classical theory describes the world in the long run, in the short run, the theory doesn't hold anymore. In the short run, money supply is not neutral to the economy, and neither is price to economic production level. Such nominal variables as money supply, price level, and nominal interest rate affect the real variables. That is why, instead of separating the nominal and real variables like the classical dichotomy suggests, the short-run model developed the interaction between nominal and real variables. Central to the economic model here is the interaction between real output, the real variable, and the overall price level, which is the nominal variable. Let's now talk about the aggregate demand curve, or simply the AD curve, that shows the total quantity of goods and services demanded in an economy at any given price level. The AD equation, like the expenditure approach of measuring GDP, is expressed like this. And the overall level of price affects aggregate demand through the three effects. First, when prices fall, consumption rises because households are wealthier. That is why the effect is called the wealth effect. Second, lower price level also reduces equilibrium interest rate in the money market. The interest rate effect occurs as lower interest rates stimulate spending on investment. Lastly, the lower interest rate in domestic economy also increases net capital outflow. Higher net capital outflow then causes real exchange rate depreciation that stimulates net export. In short, all the effects show that when prices fall, aggregate demand rises following the increase in their elements, namely consumption, investment, and net exports. This is the reason why the eddy curve slopes downward. Aggregate demand for sure is not only affected by price changes. Non-price factor changes that affect the element of aggregate demand shift the eddy curve. Higher consumption because of tax cut, for instance, shift the eddy curve to the right. Higher investment because of the rise in money supply that lower interest rate also shift the eddy curve to the right. Likewise, any event or policy that causes higher government spending and net export shift the eddy curve to the right. This shift happens because aggregate demand is higher at any given price level. So, as long as the change in aggregate demand is not due to the change in the overall price level, the eddy curve shifts. But when aggregate demand changes due to the change in the overall price level, the eddy curve stays and the change is reflected by the point movement along the eddy curve. After understanding the eddy, let's turn our attention to the aggregate supply. The key difference between the economy in the short run and in the long run actually is the behavior of aggregate supply. While AD has no short run and long run condition, aggregate supply does have both. The short run aggregate supply or SRAS curve slopes upward, showing the positive correlation between the overall price level and the output produced in the economy. The first theory explaining the upward sloping SRAS curve is called the sticky wage theory. The theory emphasizes that in the short run, nominal wages tend to be sticky or slow to adjust to economic condition. It may be due to working contract between employer and labor. So, when prices fall, real wages are higher than the firm's initial expectation, causing firms to demand less labor and produce less output. Therefore, the lower the price, the lower the supply, resulting in the SRAS curve that slopes upward. The second theory is the sticky price theory, with the main assumption, as the name suggests, is that in the short run, prices tends to be sticky. Not all firms can adjust their prices immediately because adjusting prices from the firm's initial expectation imposes additional menu costs. So, when the overall price level falls, the products of firms that lag behind in cutting their prices are relatively costly. Their sales decline and in turn cause this firm to produce less output. Here, just like the first theory, we also observe that the lower the price, the lower the supply, hence the SRAS curve slopes upward. The last theory is the misperception theory. The theory believes that when the overall price level changes, many firms have misperception about what is happening in the individual markets in which they sell their output. So, when the overall price level falls, including the market prices of these firms' output, they think that only the prices of their output that fall below their expectation. Because the prices now seems less rewarding, the firms reduce their production. And at the end, again, we find that the lower price, the lower the supply, justifying the SRAS curve that slopes upward. Although we don't know which theory about the SRAS curve is correct, but they have one important similarity. All theories suggest that output deviates in the short run from its natural level when the actual price level deviates from the price level that people had expected to prevail. Mathematically, it is expressed like this. From the equation, we can observe price has positive correlation with output, thus justifying the upward sloping SRAS curve mathematically. But don't forget, other than actual price level, we have two more elements of the SRAS, namely the natural output and expected price level. They are non-price factors in our supply equation, causing the SRAS curve to shift. The direction of the shift follows the correlation of the natural output and expected price level with the output level, which are positive and negative respectively. Suppose now that with inflationary pressures in the economy, the price expectation PE is higher. Higher expected price then puts pressure further up on price level at any given output level, causing the upward shift of the SRAS curve. On the other hand, when, for example, there is an increase in one of the factors of production such as labor capital or natural resources, or a technological progress, the natural output level rises. The SRAS curve in this situation shifts to the right because with higher capacity of production, the economy produces more output at any given price level. The supply equation can also be used to explain the long-run aggregate supply or LRAS curve and its shape. Recall the classical theory. In the long run, price level, the nominal variable, has nothing to do with the capacity of production. Firms can also fully adjust their price expectation so that there is no more deviation between P and PE. With no more price deviation, output in the long run, or Y, is just equal to the natural level of output, Y bar. Therefore, in the diagram, the LRAS curve is vertical since supply is price independent. The LRAS curve shifts together with the SRAS curve when natural output changes, that is when number of factors of production or technology changes. Okay, having understood the AD and AS curves, we can start the discussion about the short-run economic fluctuation. Look at the initial long-run equilibrium condition here. The equilibrium is at point A at the intersection of the AD, SRAS, and LRAS curve. Output level Y0 equals to the full employment output level Y bar, and the overall price level PO equals the expected price level PE. Suppose now there is a demand shock because of the increased pessimism about the economy that reduces consumption and investment. The AD curve shifts to the left, causing the short-run equilibrium move from point A to point B. At point B, the new overall price level P1 is lower than the old expected price PE, and the output produced is also lower at Y1. At this point, there are two possibilities. The government does nothing, or it stimulates demand. If the government does nothing, the economy will adjust itself. Labor and firms may eventually realize that the overall price level is lower. They adjust their price expectation down, causing the SRS curve to shift downward. The shift pushes further down the price level to equal the new price expectation at P2, but also returns the output level to Y0 at point C. But if the government chooses to stimulate the demand, the eddy curve may shift to the right, and with perfect speed and precision of the policy, it returns to point A, or the initial equilibrium before the demand shock arises. With the same initial condition, what will happen now if there is a supply shock, for instance, due to oil price hike during war periods? Oil price hike causes the SRS curve to shift upward because at current output level, the overall price level is higher. The short-run equilibrium then moves from point A to point B, resulting in a stagflation because inflation or higher level of the overall price at P1 occurs along with higher unemployment due to lower level of output at Y1. Then, just like in the previous case, if government does nothing, the inflationary pressures drive the expected price up. Labor will be demanding higher nominal wage because their real wage has declined. At the same time, firms also adjust their output prices and push the overall price level up further. The wage price spiral causes SRS curve shift further upward to SRS2, making the stagflation condition even worse. Higher price leading to higher wages, and higher wages leading to even higher prices. The wage price spiral, however, will eventually slow down and reverse. It occurs because higher unemployment that results from higher wage demand makes labor realize that their bargaining position to get higher nominal wage is getting lower and lower. Labor need a job more than an increased wage. With lower nominal wage demand, then firms could hire more labor and increase their production. Therefore, the SRS curve gradually shifts back to SRS0 and reaches the initial equilibrium at point A. However, because nobody knows how quickly the reverse process starts and recover the economy, policymakers usually respond to stagflation condition by providing economic stimulus, thus shifting the eddy curve to the right. The problem is, as we can observe the new equilibrium at point C, while it may return the output level and the employment to its initial level at Y0, but the price increase now becomes permanent at P2. Okay, that's all about how short-run economic fluctuation is evaluated using the ADAS framework. Well, basically, what we need to know first is the factors causing the fluctuation and whether they affect AD, SRAS, or both. Once we are able to identify the shift, we may predict where the new equilibrium is and find the best response to deal with it. There's always adjustment in the economy to reach or to return to its long-run equilibrium through the change in price expectation. But we need to realize as well that the adjustment period may be too long for the economy to live with. That's why economic stabilization policy may be needed. Moreover, knowledge about the short-run and long-run aggregate supply curve also tells us that changes in aggregate demand affect output and price in the short run, but it only affects price in the long run. Money growth, as the classical view suggested, only causes inflation, not economic growth. Higher money supply lowers interest rate and stimulates spending on investment, thus shifting the eddy curve to the right. But with the vertical LRS curve, the equilibrium price rises while the output level is unchanged. Thank you for your attention. See you again in other videos with different basic macroeconomics topics.